Good afternoon, everybody. Welcome to a special live stream of Midnight's Edge. I'm, of course, your narrator supreme, Mr. Rob Robot Shlomo. With us, as always, is Mr. Tom Connors.
Good morning, good afternoon, good evening.
And with us, as always, is Miss MechaRandom.
Hello.
And joining us is the future ruler of Earth, the one, the only, Dictor Van Doomcock.
Greetings all. Welcome to Midnight's Edge, and thank you for having me.
How's the weather in the country?
It's balmy.
Yeah, chilling by the lava river. Sorry, yeah. And joining us today is the boss man himself, the one, the only, the father of Midnight's Edge, Andre.
Greetings, everyone. Glad to be here and glad that you're all joining us. So let's get going.
Yes. So, Andre, tell us what brings us here right now. Let's go. We're going to throw it to you for a recap and take us through that the circumstances that brings us here.
Yes, absolutely. As most of you may be aware, we released a video a couple of days ago where we basically went through the prime deception, because for years, actually since 2009, we have been led to believe that the prime timeline is identical to the canon of Star Wars, of Star Trek. Major mistake there. The canon of Star Trek, meaning the Star Trek series from 1966 up until 2005. We were led to believe that this is the prime timeline. However, as we went through in this video, this is nothing but a major misdirect. When you get right down to it, the name of the timelines, they don't really matter. That's just misdirection. What really ultimately matters from a corporate point of view is that you have two separate Star Treks. You have the original Star Trek, which was begun by Desilu and finished by Paramount, first under the ownership of Gulf and Western, and later under the ownership of the old Viacom, which then concluded with Enterprise in 2005. And then you have the new alternate Star Trek, which begun with the 2009 movie and which has continued up until Star Trek Discovery. And all future planned Star Trek is also intended to be part of this alternate license. Now, the two cannot cross. There is a legal divide, meaning that the prime timeline is actually a construct of the alternate Star Trek. It is not the actual canon, rather it is the Abrams-verse 25 different approved adaptation of canon. And the only thing that we have ever seen of the prime universe are the flashbacks of Spock Prime and Star Trek Discovery. That is all that is prime and nothing else. And still, we have been led to believe that canon and prime are the same, which clearly they are not. And now we know that they are not the same. So I'm curious to think, what do you all think about this misdirection and how we have, in some sense, been duped? So let's begin with the future ruler of planet Earth, except for Australia, which will be given to Rob, and Scandinavia, which will be given to me.
I'm supposed to get New Zealand.
And
Australia, but...
Well, leave us not quibble over territory. We plenty of time to deal with that.
Yeah, you're right. CBS and Paramount, they do quite the enough of quibbling over territories. So let's just stick to something we all love and can agree on, and then we can fight over territories when the real battle is won.
That's right. There'll be time enough for counting when the dealing's done, as Kenny
Doesn't break a stick and be like, here's tryouts, go at it, boys.
Let the games begin. Well, it is a fascinating reporting, Andre and Tom and Rob. I congratulate you all. I think that it explains an awful lot. I mean, it has really kind of lifted the fog of war from the battlefield, proverbially. And we can now make some logical sense out of what has been transpiring. You know, when they have said, "Oh, don't worry, Canon will, we will align with the Prime Universe." Well, of course, because you are the Prime Universe. You are speaking semantics. you were playing word games, and word salads were being tossed because ultimately, yes, you are going to conform with yourself. But in terms of the actual Star Trek universe, the thing that all of us lay people and fans that love Star Trek call the Star Trek universe canon, it's nothing of the kind. It was a sobering thought when you strip the veil away from this semantic game that even Leonard Nimoy's Spock was Spock Prime. It still was not Spock, even though his charm was intact, even though Nimoy's talents as an actor were absolutely present on that screen. Spock was not there. And that is a sobering notion and realization when you get right down to it, that none of this has ever been canon, that we have not seen a canonical bit of Star Trek since Enterprise. And even Enterprise is kind of shaky because it's just, it never seemed like it was actually a proper prequel, but its heart at least was in the right place. At least actual Star Trek writers and producers were involved in the production, and they cared. They did care about it. I mean, you could see it in A Mirror Darkly, you know, the 2-part Mirror Universe episode that they did, and the Green Orion Slave Girls in the final season before Les Moonves pulled the plug on it, I guess, because it was getting too good. We haven't seen Star Trek since. And, you know, it's all down to the merchandising, as you said, Andre. It is what they can monetize and what they cannot monetize. They can only monetize things that are at least 25% different. And that tells us everything. From now on, as I said way back when it was simply a rumor that you guys have now absolutely confirmed with your reporting, we are not going to see any canonical Star Trek moving forward. Only the bits that they can monetize. All of it is going to be 25% different, and that is stunning, except for the things like the tribbles that they port over that they can't monetize, but they bite the bullet they think that the tribbles is a way to help gaslight us into believing that this is Star Trek. Tom, what do you think about that?
Well, we have been covering this for a while. I'd be careful in saying we confirmed it per se, but we did a lot of research, and we've came to the conclusion that because of everything that's out there and we've collected and we cited in the video, and there's even more that we didn't get to in the video for various reasons that I'm sure Andre will touch on, that this makes sense, that logically everything points to this is what's going on. And I loved that one article I found from Newsweek, which really kind of hit things home when it basically said in the title, you know, Paramount CBS merger could finally put Star Trek Discovery and JJ Trek under one roof with the classics. You know, right there says everything we need to know about what we're dealing with here. And the more people wanted to deny it and live in denial, that's fine. But nothing is going to change until they realize that we know that they're feeding us full of shit, basically. Mecha?
I'm pissed that they are so that they are so insistent on lying to us, basically, that, you know, that they can't just admit, yeah, it's just a different universe, it's not your Trek, because I wouldn't watch the shit if it wasn't like my Trek. And I'm kind of to the point now where I have to, because YouTube and, you know, this channel, my channel, all the others. But if I were just a casual viewer, and I think a lot of people, I speak for a lot of people that at least I've heard commenting, we wouldn't watch it if it were like basically JJ Trek, Bad Robot Trek. So I'm just mad at the deception. I understand why they did it. It's absolutely 1000% for marketing purposes and for just to trick people into watching. It's just frustrating. I don't know. What do you think, Rob?
Well, it is frustrating. The thing is, it's not so much of the deception. it's the continuing denials that it's the party line. Oh, don't worry. Don't worry. You're gonna see how this all works out. Don't worry. We know what we're doing. Obviously, you don't know what you're doing. And that is all a part of, like I said, the deception and I don't want to say the outright lies, but we've been sold a bill of goods. We've been promised that that this was something that it wasn't, and we are continuing to be told that this is the thing that we all loved, and it's not. And I've often said that one of the real problems is it's not so much it lines up to JJ Trek, okay? And I've often said that this is actually part of the problem, and people have said, "Oh, well, this is for a new audience. This is for new fans. This is new Star Trek. The old one was boring." As Doomcock says, you know, you've have this fan base that's been with you for 50 years. You know, and the idea is to keep people on the treadmill, and, you know, you bring in new fans. That's what Star Trek always did. But it's this gigantic middle finger that we've all been shown by CBS and by Bad Robot. Hey, you know, that thing you've loved for 50 years, you know what? All that stuff, that Kirk and McCoy and the Enterprise and Spock and all that, that doesn't count anymore. Yeah, and now we're being told, oh yeah, you know what? Shut up and you'll like what Shut up and you'll like what we tell you to like, because haha, you know, you've been scammed, you've been hoodwinked, yeah, you've been had, you know, and we're on. The thing is, we're on to them now. And years ago, you'd be able to keep the secret, but now, with all the information out there, the con has been exposed. You know, not to, you know, be make a pun there about con. Yeah, con. Like I said, but you know, you know, you gave the game away, and we all know it. And like I said, you know, it's only a matter of time before the whole house of cards comes collapsing down on itself. What? Should we read the super chats now, Tom? Andre?
Yeah, let's do
We have
the
quite a
super chats,
few,
and then
yeah.
I have some thoughts on the matter myself, which I think is extremely frustrating. But what is not frustrating are those that support us enough to send some super chats. So first, thanks to Hobbitten for sending us a £2 super chat, saying wacky waving inflatable arm flailing tube man. Thanks, I guess. Keep it up.
And you have to miss the first one.
Yeah,
it's a Family Guy reference. Yeah.
Oh, awesome! Well, Rob caught that, and then we have
was the first one
that sends a $5 super chat saying, "May the Picard and Space Hitler the Spy Section 31 show never sees the light of day. Is Alex running his mouth, or could they be made? Hail all! We shall get back to that later. But the long story or the short story is." Yes, they could be made. There is no guarantees either way, but right now odds are somewhat against it. They're more against Space Hitler the Spy than they are against Picard, but it's not looking incredibly well for either of them right now in this moment. And then Stephanie Littlepage sends a $10 super chat, thank you, saying, "Hey Andre, it's the walking wounded here. I fractured my C1 vertebrae in a car accident and I'm still recovering. As I've said to others, I can't hate the cast of Discovery, just the writing." Well, first of all, I'm very, very happy to hear that you're walking wounded, and I hope that your C1 fracture is going to heal perfectly fine with no loss of mobility in any way. So fingers crossed for that. I hope that you're one of the lucky ones, given that you had a C1 fracture. About the other things, you can't hate the cast of Discovery. Well, I don't think anyone else does hate the cast. The cast are just actors doing the best that they possibly can with, let's be honest, shoddy material. The writing, that's the problem. That's who... I'm not going to say that we hate, but the one that we have an issue with is certainly the ones behind the writing. Don't you generally agree with that, fellas?
Yeah.
Yeah, the
yeah.
writing is the crux of the difficulty.
Yeah, and that brings us back to the initial question about this whole thing about Canon versus Prime and the deception, how they had us all duped. And this, of course, is due to legal rights issues. This is something that was given from above. When Paramount wanted to make their movie and they appointed Bad Robot to do it, they were basically told that you can make your own alternate Star Trek. It has to be 25% different. You cannot touch the original. Of course, you can use anything you want from it, but if you do, then CBS gets all the money from that. So please try to make it as much different as you possibly can. I imagine that was the general direction that Paramount, under the leadership of New Viacom, gave to Bad Robot. Of course, then they had two options. One is that they could do a complete and total reboot. Of course, they had to do that anyway. It is a complete and total reboot. But they could be honest and upfront and say that this is a complete and total reboot, much like the 2003 Battlestar Galactica, or they could try to tie it to the original canon somehow, which is the choice they made with then the original Prime, or not the original, but Spock Prime, so that they then created the illusion that this is the future of the canon Star Trek that he came from. And I actually can't blame them for doing that. I perfectly well understand that that's a good way of respecting canon, in the sense that it's still there. It still exists in another timeline. We're never ever going to revisit again. The corporate goal is to shelve it. But for you fans, you can know that it's there and it can go on in books and comics and all of those things. While what matters here and now is this new alternate Star Trek. I can actually kind of understand and respect that point of view, and certainly appreciate it. Their problem was that the movies weren't good enough. That was their problem. The real problem begun with Star Trek Discovery, in my opinion. That's the series they never should have made. Like this charade about duping fans into thinking that this whole thing is canon, they could have gotten away with it. There was no problem with the movies because that's stated as an alternate universe. The problem started with Discovery. The huge mistake that they did there was that they had to revisit the pre-TOS era to begin with, and then claim that this is canon and is going to line up with the Prime universe. That's where they created all the problems for themselves. If only they could have done what fans wanted. If only they could have made a new series set in the Prime universe, but 20 years after the events of Voyager, which is where like the original canon ended timeline-wise. If they had just done that, or say 20 years after Nemesis, and then you could have had like the cameos from Picard and everything, and it could have been 25% different with a new crew and everything. Because it's 20 years into the future, it could have looked very much the same as Discovery does right now. And no one would have minded, and no one would ever have known. They screwed themselves by going back to the pre-TOS era. That's my opinion. That's where they really destroyed themselves. I just want to hear what you guys think about that. Tumcock?
Yeah, I think that's beyond dispute. I think that if they had simply made this set after Voyager, then the differences in all the silly, ludicrous violations of canon now, in terms of holograms are everywhere. They've got a spore drive, which is an insane conceit anyway. I mean, it doesn't work, period. It's ludicrous. However, at least it would not conflict with warp drive and the technologies of the time. You know, you don't have to have Pike saying, "Oh, I hate holograms. We're going to go back to old-fashioned view screens" as an attempt to retcon this thing. Although really, ultimately, Andre, I think that the greatest mistake that they made, even beyond that, was having people writing this show that don't have a talent for it and have no knowledge of or affection for Star Trek. I mean, that is absolutely the death blow, because even if they had had a bunch of canon violations, if it had been brilliant in the way that, say, Ron Moore's Battlestar Galactica was brilliant, we'd have a lot harder time dismissing it. As it is, if they had gone ahead and set this, 20, 50, 100 years after Voyager, the writing would still stink. And basically, though, they would have had an easier time of it, in that we would all just have written it off and be ignoring it, rather than, basically pointing out that this is one big lie, that Prime is not canon, and lamenting the death of our Star Trek canon without even having a funeral announcement. They just buried it in the woods and tried to say, oh no, this pod version of Star Trek is your Star Trek. What are you, crazy? We've been gaslighted, and that's the thing that really, really hurts. Tom, what is your take on it?
Well, you guys pretty much touched on my feelings. It was pretty obvious from the start that this was way too advanced for quote unquote Prime or canon, whatever you want to call it now. Again, you said it. I feel more like I don't think it would matter if this was a different show at this point, because the writing is so bad. The acting and the actors themselves are for the most part fine, but just what they're given to work with is shit. So I mean, we went from the best episode of Star Trek Discovery to the worst episode of Star Trek Discovery in a week, from episode 2 of season 2 to episode 3 of season 2. So the writing is all over the place. I would not watch this if it wasn't Star Trek, or if I didn't basically have to. I'll be honest, 100%. No way. Mecha?
Oh, I agree. And I think they did this on purpose, because like you said, I wouldn't watch it either. You wouldn't watch it. I wouldn't watch it. I don't care about the JJ universe. I don't care about the Kelvin universe. They're basically Star Trek for people who don't really like Star Trek, or for people who don't care about the cerebral side of Star Trek. And that's fine. There's nothing wrong with that. If you want your action and space battles, but don't pee on my leg and tell me it's raining, because that's exactly what they're doing with this. They're telling us that that no, this is your canon Star Trek. Oh, it is Prime. They're playing their semantics. They're trying to trick people into watching it, and they're tricking people into hate watching it. It's backfiring massively. So they're sending their kind of shills and their trolls and their fanboys out in full force. And it's getting to the point where you can't tell the difference, because I even made a video stating, like, here's the top 5 things that you kind of keep hearing with this argument of, well, it is canon, it is this, it is that, and you still, it's like form letter responses, these people. But so that's why I kind of think that maybe this is a calculated thing on their part, because I don't think anyone would watch it otherwise. I don't know. What do you think, Rob?
Well put. Well, I could live with, as Tom was saying, as Doomcog was saying, and certainly as you were saying, Mecha, that you could live with certain canon violations if it was just any good, which it is not. And saying we went from the best episode of Discovery to one of the worst. I mean, the best episode of Discovery is still pretty bad. Let's not mince words here.
Yeah. Oh yeah, don't get me wrong. It wasn't great, but it was the most Star Trek-y episode we had gotten so far.
Yeah, and it was still problematic. And we pointed this out repeatedly, is that the writing is just abysmal. I'm not saying that I'm qualified to come up with the 45-minute script for a major television series, but at the same time, if you said to me, "Hey, Rob, okay, listen, we have people that are going to help you with this. They know what they're doing. You know what? They're here to help you. They're here to bring the story out of you. So work with them. You could trust them." I don't even think there's that in the writer's room anymore. And we pointed this out several times. Do you have what we call Gilmore Girls level writing on this show? And that's not an exaggeration. There are writers who worked on the Gilmore Girls working on the show. They don't have. The majority of them, they have no science fiction writing experience. We're not even sure if they have any knowledge about Star Trek. And like I said, we could live with and all this if it was just any good, but a lot of it isn't. There are a lot of things that, even just from a practical standpoint, that make absolutely no sense, like sending glass pods into an asteroid field full of millions upon millions of tiny particles that could shatter it. You know, having a window on the bridge that faces out into the vacuum of space.
Oh, yeah, that's a requirement. That's a requirement of the alternate license, by the way. That's one of the hallmarks. That there you have glass windows instead of view screens. Or that the view screen is like a glass window.
Yes, because that's exactly what I want between me and the cold, hard vacuum of space. It's a pane of glass.
They could have fixed that whole first episode if they just said view screen off, because the whole thing that knocked out their entire ship basically was that probe of light or something. Oh, God.
You know what? In Star Trek First Contact, they explained it one time where there was that scene with Picard with I can't remember what her name was, and she said, "I want off the ship." Okay, he opens the window. Okay, there's New Guinea, there's Indonesia, there's it's a long way down. You might want to you might want to hold your breath if you're gonna jump. And she goes, "There's no glass," and he puts his hand up against it, and it's a force field. I mean, so I'm all 25% different. We can't have that. But at the same time, like I said, it doesn't even make sense from a practical standpoint. A lot of things they do, and a lot of stuff you could just let slide if it was still good. You know, a lot of things we let slide for years, like explosions in space. How could there be explosion if there's no air? But we let it slide because if things were good enough, he says, don't worry about that. You know, oh God, it's frustrating on a level as a fan that it's difficult to make people who aren't fans to make understand why you get so angry watching this.
Yeah, that's also actually a really, really important thing to be made, because I have heard of someone else who is getting really frustrated with the situation, and that is the cast. Make no mistake about it. The cast of Star Trek Discovery, they were told what we have been told. They were told that this is Prime, so they signed on under the impression that this is going to be real Star Trek. So this duping that has been done, it wasn't done by the cast. So I'm just saying to all of you, like, lay off the cast on Twitch and everything. It's not their fault. In some sense, they're victims here too, because they starred in something that was something else than what they thought they signed on to. Just like Netflix that bought something else, or they were understanding that they bought one thing and they got quite another. No, the people that are to blame here are exclusively the people at Bad Robot, personified, I guess, by Alex Kurtzman. Those are the ones that have really made all the shots here and the decisions that have brought us to this state. They could have stopped this from being Star Trek Discovery if they had wanted to make this the next generation after that, which is probably something that would have been accepted, set 25 years, 50 years, 100 years, whatever number of years after the events of Nemesis, so the 25% difference would be set. It would have been no issue. So what do you think about the cast? Do you feel sorry for them, or should all blame go to Kurtzman and the fellow producers? Doomcock?
Well, blame? Yeah. To Kurtzman and the producers, obviously. The actors do the best they can with the lines that they're given. I have been told, although this is just a rumor, but that, on the set, a lot of times the actors are asking, why am I doing this? Or, what does this mean? And they're just told, press on with it. That's just something I've heard. But ultimately, they're not putting this stuff on the page. Now, I've said that some of them are not the best actors in the world. I've made no secret about that. Evaluating their actual performances, there's certain weaknesses, and I've spoken about them. However, in terms of blame, in terms of anger, or accusations, they are blameless and should not be blamed for the horrors that have been perpetuated in the writer's room. I mean, it's just not their fault. Please do lay off of them. I don't go after the actors per se. I don't harass them on Twitter or anything. I don't even talk to them. It's just
no. To be clear, we have never advocated that.
Yeah.
Despite what some people may be saying, not a single one of us on this panel, channels involved, have ever said go out there and attack the actors or fans of the show.
We haven't even said attack Kurtzman. We're just saying if someone.
Yeah, that's what I just said. Yeah,
certainly not the actor.
They're fans, right. Everybody.
I mean, really, our reviews are basically consumer alerts, if anything. But none of us have ever said to go and harass anyone, even Kurtzman or any of them. But we're not being silent. I mean, that's basically it. We are giving reviews. We are giving analysis of what is on the screen. Period. And that's the end of it. Tom, what do you think?
Well, again, pretty much you guys have said everything that needs to be said about that part of it. As far as the actors goes, like we said, we've never told them to go out and anybody to ever go out and attack anybody, fans, actors, anybody, period. And as far as the actors go, plenty of the actors in the cast I enjoy in other things a lot. And I've pointed out the times that we have enjoyed the actors. Like there's been plenty of times last season we enjoyed Tilly, and we enjoyed, we've all pretty much said that Anson Mount is the best part of this show so far. We're not quite sure if he's Pike, but he's the only, it's like he's acting circles around everybody else in the show at this point. And Doug Jones, of course, he's just a classic. You can't say anything bad about Doug Jones. So again, there's so many people in this cast that are amazing. They're just given shit to work with. Mecha?
Well, here's the thing. I have to keep people from going after the actors. I'm like, dude, they didn't write the show. They don't write the show on Twitter. There's a lot of times where the actors will be tagged into something. I am very much one of those people. I will be on Twitter and I will make a snarky joke or something or comment on a Star Trek thread if I see one of their CBS All Access ads on Twitter, because they'll show up on my feed even though I don't follow Star Trek and stuff. I will have a snarky sort of comeback or joke or whatever, and I'll see some of the actors being responding to some of those things. So I've had some interaction from time to time, but I always try and tell them, and I just try and keep it civil and complimentary to the actors, because like I said, they don't write the stuff. They're not responsible, even when they do, there have been a couple of them who have kind of gone and badmouthed a few people here and there. And I've made a couple videos on it. I don't know if I want to go and drag or slam anybody on the show, but I can't imagine what they go through, because there are a lot of people who will attack them for basically, this character sucks. It's your fault. They didn't write the character. They really did write this. It's not their fault. But at the same time, it feels like we're kind of getting silenced from criticizing it. We have so many of the real diehard people who want to go out of their way and say, oh, you're sexist, you're racist, you're whatever, any insult they can if you don't like the show. If you have genuine, legitimate complaints like this writing was abysmal and the camera work made me sick, or they just don't. They don't get it. They don't like criticism. They want to keep us quiet. I don't know. What do you think, Rob?
Well, I always say that, listen, they're doing a job. Okay. And please, and actually we've stressed this before. This is not personal. Okay. I don't have anything against them, against the cast of Discovery. I don't have anything against the job they do. They are in a difficult situation. And I keep saying that, even keep your interactions with them civil. But at the same time, I think they have to be worried that this might be a career killer for them. Because this is going to stick with it. It's not like the old days where you can just bury a series and it gets forgotten. I mean, this is going to stay around forever. And they are gonna. I'm pretty sure that many of them are worried. I'm like, oh no, I'm going to be associated my whole career with the worst Star Trek series ever. And like I said, and it's as unfair as it is. I mean, I got to think many of them are going to be saddled with that. And I have to say, like I said, but we don't hold it against them necessarily. They're in a difficult spot. Like I said, the couple of interactions we've had with some of the cast, like I said, on Twitter, and I keep saying that I have to. Every time this comes up, I have to give it up to a couple of them, like Emily Coates, who plays the Detmer, the bridge officer, the navigator, whatever her job is. They really didn't give her a job description. I actually sent a tweet out about her character that said that I was calling her Lisa Left Eye, and she actually found that funny. And so, like I keep saying, some of them have been pretty good sports in that they'll interact with a joke, but like I always say, keep whatever interactions you have with the cast pleasant. We can't stress that enough. It is not their fault. If anything, like I said, we can point the blame at Alex Kurtzman, but even keep the interactions with him, even keep your criticisms of him professional. Like I always said, and Gary Beekler brought this up last night. He said, how did Alex Kurtzman get a job again in Hollywood after what he did with The Amazing Spider-Man 2? He really fudged up one of the best comic storylines ever, the death of Gwen Stacy. And he says that is something that is difficult to ruin, and somehow he managed to do it. I just don't understand that. Well, anyway, Andre, back,
Yeah, before we move on, let's we have a number of super chats since the last time, so let's address those. Tom, let me know if I'm missing someone. I don't think I do. Mark C sends us a $10 super chat saying, nobody buys Prime or Kelvin merchandise. Hell, I refuse to pick up the Enterprise Hot Wheels because it's the Kelvinator. At one point, does this become beating a dead horse? I think he means, at what point does this become beating a dead horse for Kurtzman's group? I think we've soon gotten to that point. I mean, does anyone know what happened to the McFarlane toys that they had a license on for Discovery? Did something happen with those? Or are they still yet to come?
They canceled them. As far as I know, that horrible, horrible corruption of the Hua Chang classic phaser from the original series was going to be released. It should have been out by now, but it got canceled because there was simply no demand whatsoever, no response to the announcement that these toys were going to be out there. So they were going to be taking up shelf space, and that's it. Nobody wants them. They're hideous. The spaceship designs in Discovery are absolutely hideous, ludicrous. They don't have any resemblance to what came before or what was going to follow in terms of the timeline, if it was canon. They are invariably, the 25% different has been 25% worse, or actually 100% worse, which is mathematically kind of a wonder. So that's my opinion. I don't know. Tom, what do you think?
Whoops, I'm on mute. Sorry about that.
Yeah, just quick thoughts on the toys before we move on to the next super chat, because we have a few of them.
Well, what you guys said was pretty much on point. And again, who wants something that's not quite accurate? I mean, when I was a kid, I always remembered being bummed when I'd get a toy for a movie, and it's like, well, this looks hardly anything like it did in the movie, or that's not right, or that's wrong, and stuff like that. And then as an adult, we're probably the most consumers of toys now because kids don't play with toys anymore. So you would think that obviously, we know the merchandise is a big deal for them anyway. So I mean, what was the exact question of, as far as like, I missed that part there. What was he exactly asking?
Yeah, no, it was basically just a comment on when will enough be enough, basically, since it's not working with the toys or with the merchandise.
They're reaching that point. I think they're reaching that point because nobody wants the Discovery merchandise.
Yeah. Mecha, Rob, quick comments from you before we move on.
Well, I'm looking at right now an article on Trek Movie from 2008, from 2018, it looks like. October 19, 2018. The only thing we've gotten from McFarlane so far is a Picard and Kirk figure. Let me share this. Puts as a chat. Maybe
Yeah,
Tom can
because we
share it.
had this in a previous video. Because basically, I remember this because
Okay, yeah. But
but are there any plans for the Discovery toys?
No. The only thing they have with any reference to Discovery is the back packaging. On the back packaging, they have a phaser, the hand phaser, and there's a picture of Mikey Burnham alongside Spock, and it just says "coming soon." That is the only reference they have to Discovery.
Is she pointing it at her face?
No, sadly, no, she's not.
Oh,
that would be the phaser that was cancelled. Yes, the one I remember this. We have it in a video. It's the one where McFarlane himself went out and said there was no demand for it. They're trying to force something that there's no demand for. And then later, after it was cancelled, there was this cover story about it being against some regulations or
because it supposedly looked too much like a real gun. How does one of those even look like a real gun? You tell me. It looks more like a shaver than it does a gun.
Yeah. It's a practical excuse, though, and that brings us very neatly to
one moment though, Andre. Though, if you look, photos are action figures are prototypes and specifications subject to change. This is the disclaimer. Please refrain from packaging for your future references. Trademark, copyright 2018 CBS Studios, 2018 Paramount Pictures Corporation.
Oh, there you go.
So, yeah. So they're actually, we have more evidence there of a licensing partnership between the two.
Yeah.
Well, and why would they mention they are doing, I think, a Saru and a Mikey Spock doll, if I'm not mistaken, figures.
Are they doing? I know they have the license, but are they doing? That's the question.
Let me double check, but I think they said they were planning on them.
Well, I don't see any sign of it.
Yeah. Anyway, while you look for that, we can move on to the next super chat, because the next one by Chris Persa, who sends a $5 Canadian super chat. Thank you very much. Is right on point to what we just discussed, which is a lie that is a half truth is ever the greatest of lies. Obscuring canon with Prime was deliberately done in order to change the merits of our fandom. Yes, exactly, to the point. And Pixel Quadrat sends a €5 super chat saying they say it's 10 years prior to Kirk. Yes, 10 years prior to JJ's Kirk. And that would make perfect sense and line up perfectly in any way. Think about it. Yeah, well, to be clear, though, it's not 10 years prior to JJ's Kirk as in the Chris Pine Kirk. Rather, it's 10 years prior to the 25% different Kirk that we have not yet seen. That's the approved version of the, or rather, it's the approved new Paramount Viacom alternate Star Trek version of the original canon. If that makes sense. Moving on, A. Carter sends a $4.99 super chat. We've been bamboozled. We didn't land on Kurtzman Rock, it landed on us. Yeah, it kind of did. But to be fair, though, Kurtzman isn't the only one to blame here. Like right now, he's in charge of Trek, or at least he used to be prior to a possible demotion. But people higher up than him were the ones that started it. And Chop Smith sends a $5 super chat saying, always wanted to contribute to a super chat. Well, now you did, and we're really grateful for it, so thank you. Captain Hare says, and sends a $5 super chat and says, get Harvey, get Ren, get insert name. It's finally time. For what you ask? Why the Mead musical, of course. Start with the DVD/Harvey love song. Doomcock, I believe the challenge is for you.
A Harvey and DVD love song, huh? We're not written by the writers' room of Star Trek Discovery, so I don't see a love song between me and Harvey. Perhaps a rival, hi-ya-ta, kind of, I will cure kind of, opposing thing. I will destroy the world and I will conquer the world and, something like that. But beyond that, no. I
we can't get it done if you don't push the button.
Push the button, push the button, push the button. No, I won't.
There you go. Okay.
Midnight's Edge the musical in collaboration with Doomcock. So
I didn't find the figures I was talking about. They are actually figures. I thought they were toys, but they're actually like busts and figurines that were at the San Diego Comic-Con last year.
Boy, they
I
sure
found
are.
one.
Does she have shorts on and a spacesuit?
It sure looks like it, don't it?
Oh God Almighty! She's wearing Spanx in space.
She just come back from basketball practice. What's going on?
Racquetball, the worst racket of all, gaslighting the fans. Hey-oh.
All right, I found one. I found a bobblehead. Or it looks like a little mini figure. I don't know. 3-inch Titan vinyl figure.
Is that a dust devil she's holding? What is that?
Well, I don't know. I guess it's her phaser. So I found this. It says coming February 2019. It's a pre-order. 9 times out of 10, when I say a pre-order on Entertainment Earth, that means
she's judging me right now.
I know. Usually the pre-orders though never actually get made, especially when the time has come and gone. Yeah, I've had some experience on Entertainment Earth where toy lines have been completely canceled from other franchises that I collect toys from, and yeah, when their coming soon date has come and gone, basically that means this figure is probably never going to get made. That's speculation, though, an experience, but
yeah, the demand certainly isn't there. So let's move on to some more super chats before we carry on the regular programming. And the next one is a $2 super chat from Clear Mountain, asking us all, are you still hopeful for Axanar? Doomcock?
Yeah. I mean, I think it's a miracle at all that we're getting anything related to Axanar after CBS sued them. And, I know that there's been a lot of production trouble and, bad blood between the creators, which, distresses me and makes me very unhappy. I don't want to derail anything by siding in on any side, pro or con. I simply prefer to wait and evaluate the final product like I would any other production. So I'm pretty much trying to be neutral, but in terms of will it be better than Star Trek Discovery? Yeah. I don't think there's any doubt about it. What isn't better than Star Trek Discovery? I've seen, progressive ads on TV that are better than Star Trek Discovery, and I despise Flo. What do you think, Tom?
That is well documented. I will vouch for that.
Yes, I do.
I agree with Doomcock pretty much. I mean, you're right. I mean, I can't really add much to that.
Oh, Axanar is something I wanted to watch, and it was Star Trek, not Discovery. I mean, it had the storyline that I actually wanted to see.
And I mean, well, we know a lot about it, especially now that Robert Burnett has kind of said a lot of the stuff that we knew behind the scenes for the longest time. So it is sad to see a situation like that the way it happened when we could have gotten something really amazing out of it. And it really was kind of the defining moment of the fan films falling apart. Sorry, Mecha.
Oh, no, go ahead. I was pretty much done. That's all I had to say.
Yeah. Then let's move on to Rob, did you say your thoughts on Axanar?
I'm just hopeful to see something. I mean, I loved Prelude to Axanar. I really would love to see something. And remember when there was that whole thing about could Discovery be using the same story elements as Axanar? I'm like, looking back, I really wish it had. I mean, but then they would have screwed it up though. But anyway, I really would like to see something out of that.
I agree completely. I would have loved to seen Garth Weiser, who is an awesome character in the original series and one of the best episodes, in my opinion. As for Axanar, I was really, really hopeful before the whole lawsuit and the new regulations, which forces it down to 2 episodes of 15 minutes rather than the full feature film, which I think it was supposed to be, with the script by Bill Hunt and everything. So yeah, I think it's a great loss that we're not getting that incarnation of Axanar, but still we are getting an Axanar in some form. Now it's directed by comic book writer Paul Jenkins, last I heard. So hopefully when it is released, it's still going to be good. So yeah, fingers crossed.
Yeah, Paul Jenkins, who actually worked on Marvel's Inhumans. Not the TV series, on the Marvel's actually comic book Inhumans.
Yeah, the good Inhumans.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, there you go. All right, and then moving on, Troy Pacelli sends a $5 super chat and says, "Thank Carlos for all of you. You get the truth out with honor. I truly appreciate each of you." Well, thank you. I believe I say that from all of us. And
Absolutely, thank you.
And Psycho Dwarf 9 also sends a $2 super chat saying, "Do we set up a support group for the cast?" Well, I think we probably need a support group for the fans who have been duped, and the cast are welcome to join. What do you think?
Let them set up their own support group. They can afford it. I'm not worried about
I
it.
should say so. And Disco Sneak sends 2 super chats. First, a €2 super chat with just a super chat, so thanks for that. And then a question with a €5 super chat. On Canon, we knew all the crew, knew their personality, were interested in their stories and fate. Does anyone know the bridge crew of STD? Let's just do a very, very quick discussion on that one question, because I think it's a really poignant one, which really sets the writing on blast in Discovery. Guys, do you know the name and functions of the bridge crew of Star Trek Discovery? Doomcock.
Well, there's not Mikey Spock that has the metal stuff over her eye, and then there's not Mikey Spock that sits next to her, and there's not Nike Spock who sits in the chair. I think his name is Puke or something. But that's pretty much all I know. Oh yeah, and there's Stamens, the mushroom guy. That's what I know. What do you think, Tom? Do you know? I don't know.
Well, we've brought this up quite a few times on our reviews, how none of the crew would basically pass the RLM test, and what that is Red Letter Media's test of characters, to where you can describe a character without mentioning their job or what was the other thing?
What they look like.
Or what they look like, yes.
Yeah, because you guys, you have your own names for them based on what they look like, don't you?
Exactly, because we don't know who they are otherwise. And they just finally started to integrate them a little more, and they've even had roll calls a few times to where they're trying to get us to learn their names. But guess what? There's a way you could have done that without having to make yourself look like idiots, and that was actually do writing like they used to do, where you used to build characters. So yeah, outside of Mikey, Spock, Stamets, and stuff like that. No, and even some of those I can't tell you what their exact roles are on the bridge. Like I could, you know, Saru, like Saru, we know he's captain. Yeah, okay. You know, it's like you know, you're really just kind of stretching.
Yeah, everybody they sit facing backs to the captain. Like I said, if this were TNG era Star Trek, we would have a dedicated episode featuring each one of these people, and we would learn more about them. But since it's not, we don't. And like Tom said, we had to invent their names for them, and because they mentioned their names once during the roll call. I still don't remember them.
No,
you know, there's Lisa Left Eye, there's Mrs. T, there's Nebula, there's LeBron James, and the Asian guy I call Not Sulu, because he's not Sulu. That's all I can come up with.
This is sad. I don't even remember there being an Asian guy on the bridge. I remember Kayla Detmer because I had to go and find her name for a review. I remember Mrs. T because you named her Mrs. T. She has a character name. They mention it in like the Not That Bad episode because they bring her down because she's like, she's not a She's a Luddite. She's not a Mennonite. She's
Yeah.
a Luddite. So.
To their credit, though, I will give them credit for that. They did include another character other than Mikey Spock and Ensign and Discount Ed Mercer, Captain Mount, on an away mission. So they did get one small thing right, but everything else they got wrong.
I don't know. I think Mikey Spock, I think y'all are being very disrespectful to Mikey Spock. I just prefer my convention of not Mikey Spock, not Mikey Spock, not Mikey Spock, and so on down the line. Because really, she's the bestest ever. And if you don't acknowledge that, then I think it really is a personal failing.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll all be dead by the end of this episode.
That's right. You've gotten up in her grill, and you're going to pay the price because Mikey Spock is God. She's the Red Angel. She's the writer's room. She's every woman in the world to her, to quote Air Supply.
Oh God, they had that whole Collider article, just basically sucking her dick for like the whole entire article. It was kind of ridiculous. It was so bad.
Yeah. Yeah. And I smell a segue with that.
Yeah, there's a segue. Let's do a couple of more super chats, and then we go straight into the articles. But first, Perseus the Cat sends a $5 Canadian super chat. Acting is a collaboration with the writers and directors. They do have a part in creating the character. Criticize their delivery, not their words. That's a fair point to an extent. That being said, if they're written a completely shit situation and they're given horrible lines that don't make any sense in the real world, then I'm still going to blame the writer slightly more than the actors, though. But of course, at some point, the actors maybe could have done better. Let's not deny it. I don't think that anyone here is accusing the cast of being Oscar caliber or anything.
No.
And then one final super chat before we move on. Leandro Lima sends a $10 super chat. Do you, plurals of all of us, ever suspect this whole thing was done with any intention to slowly pull away the hope for a great future from our culture? Tumcock?
I have said before that it seems to me that there is an active, I don't know, a willful attempt to divide all of our culture along as many lines as possible, basically fracturing all of us apart from each other along every line they possibly can. And it seems like in terms of our geek culture now, this trend is continuing because it's like a Tower of Babel, like they are scrambling our languages and dividing us in that way so we cannot, as a tribe, hang together anymore. Star Wars, Star Trek, Doctor Who, all of them have been corrupted. And so then you have fans of the corrupted crap splintered off. And now we're not going to be able to ever go to another Star Trek convention again in peace without seeing people, disguised as planks of wood in roller disco outfits parading around. And that's unfortunate. That hurts. So I'd say, yeah. Tom, what do you think?
Yeah, it's kind of strange. This whole thing, when you said that, the super chat question, it made me think of, and it does have a Star Trek connection with Nicholas Meyer, surprisingly, that scene in Time After Time. I know Doomcock will know what I'm talking about, where when he comes into the future and he realizes, oh, this future is not as, utopian as I thought it was going to be. So it is almost like he says, it's getting a little Illuminati tinfoil hat, but they are kind of almost like saying, yeah, don't expect the future to be so goddamn bright.
I know exactly. It's a tinfoil hat like conspiracy type thing. No, it just seems to be like a trend. I don't know if it's because then they feel that they can get away with more by subverting our basically. Look, if corporations can get to the point where everybody is just loyal to brand names and doesn't worry about quality or thought, then they have bred a perfect culture of consumers. That's the consumer that they want, is the one that will mindlessly accept Star Trek Discovery as Star Trek just because it has the logo on it. And that's kind of their aim.
It's Brando. It's what plants eat.
I'm gonna get pretty kind of into the weeds in this one. You said, okay, Tom, I know exactly the scene you're talking about. You know, with Jack the Ripper and H.G. Wells.
H.G. Wells,
They're in the hotel.
because he said, you know, by the time we get to the future, everybody will be, you know, just basically like.
Yeah, and he goes, "We don't belong here, John. We don't belong here. I belong here." He said, and he sees all the imagery on television, violent imagery. There's a man named Clay Shirky. He's a professor of media studies at NYU, and he was talking about this actually. And you can see his TED Talk on YouTube. It was about 6 or 7 years old, but it still holds pertinent today. With all the choices, with streaming and everything, now there is an effort to the media companies to take back the reins and to be in control again, because now what's happened is that human beings are not just content to consume. We want to create, we want to share and everything. And back in the 50s, 60s, 70s, up through the 80s and 90s, especially during the early days of television, you didn't need to have the best show on television. It just had to be better than what was on the other two channels. But now the genie is out of the bottle, and they are desperately trying to put that genie back into the bottle. And part of the way I think they're trying to do it is through this effort, like I said, of corrupting everything. So it's, oh, no, shut up. You'll like what we tell you to like. And the other part of this, again, is what I call the woke Olympics. The woke Olympics, they want to, and this whole movement is, and we've seen this happen, they're like cultural locusts. In, like we keep saying, this audience that they think is there, they yell and scream, you gotta be woke, you go, there's people of color, diversity, blah, 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 blah. But then they don't show up. But then what happens is they move on to the next thing. And you know what that next thing is right now? Captain Marvel. They're waiting. They're already in position to ruin that too.
We're
right,
not
Rob. Saying that they will be.
Yes.
Yeah, we're not saying we're not saying it's going to be ruined because of that, but it is symptomatic of something of that. That is it's not this cause, but it's a symptom of that, of trying to cater to that crowd, that you are going to ruin something else like that. And
the irony of it is most of these people were the ones pointing their fingers at us all these years, calling us nerds for being into this shit, and now they're just trying to appropriate it. But they're the same type of people who bitch about and gripe about, cultural appropriation and all that kind of crap. But yet here they are doing it to nerd culture like it's nothing.
Well, that's because nerd culture is trendy right now. And I do kind of have a few theories about what's going on right now. Also, we have this sort of day and age where they kind of, technology has advanced so quickly that a lot of these old time execs don't quite understand it, and you have a lot of marketing people who don't quite understand how quickly something is trending on social media and then is dropped immediately on social media. So they're kind of overcompensating on all angles here. They are buying up the news sites to kind of give these spin media articles. They're putting out these little buzzwords and things like toxic fans and man babies and all this stuff to kind of get the verbiage out there that, oh no, we're not making a bad product, even though they have no idea what kind of product people want. Because like I said, the technology has just jumped so quickly. The generation behind us especially is just such a different culture. They consume things differently. They watch things differently. Their verbiage is different. And I'm not saying like this is a bad thing or a good thing, but their priorities and their interests are completely different to what our priorities and interests are. We prioritize good storytelling, good characters. They prioritize, other aspects of it in their media. Their fun and enjoyment out of something is, how much can I talk about this? How many endorphins do I get for getting a like on social media, for jumping down somebody who's, oh, you're a man, I'm gonna go after you because you're a man, and I can get a woke point for it. So that's one of my theories. But and I just don't see it as malicious. I think as desperate. They're kind of cornered rats trying to attack us at all fronts because they're losing so much money and they don't know how to compensate for it.
Yeah, I will say in general, never assume malice where incompetence can is a perfectly valid explanation. But
That's true.
yeah, other than that, I don't think that there's a deliberate effort to destroy Star Trek from culture, because I don't think it was at the time when this begun. I don't think it was considered as important enough that it was worthy to destroy. I mean, it was a dormant franchise at one point. But now it's definitely been made a part of the cultural wars, as you referenced already. So let us carry on with the actual story that we're covering today, and we'll get back to some more super chats later. Because as we've covered many times before, Star Trek Discovery really isn't working out so well in the ratings, or rather in the individual views and the subscribers garnered on its platform, which would be CBS All Access, which is the most important one. We haven't got any hard numbers, but when the first episode premiered, then they talked about the record number of subscribers, and they conflated it with the sports thing, with the NFL. I don't know, whatever, some sports thing. And after that, they've had nothing but fire sale after fire sale, and there's been one article after the other trying to promote Star Trek Discovery. There was this TV spot in one of these talk shows, which are exclusively pure PR marketing tools, been designed to look like their talk shows when they're really about marketing, where they were singing about the nerds in the Star Trek audience. What do you think about that, real quickly?
Smacks of desperation. Oh my God. When you're going on Let's Make a Deal, I don't think there's any talk about diagnosis murder, Dick Van Dyke, the old show. This does not bode well for your franchise when you are forced to go on Let's Make a Deal, hoping that somehow is going to make you more popular. If there had been any goodwill on this show, if it was the kind of show like, for instance, Firefly had heart to spare. I mean, it was a love series. It was an obscure series because a lot of people didn't catch on till later. That's how far ahead of its time it was. But everyone that watched it loved it, and there was a lot of love on that show. So if they had done like a musical episode or a musical song, hell, Joss Whedon has done that on Buffy, I believe. That would have had charm. But this is almost like an artificial infusion of charm. Like an enema to get rid of a blockage rather than perfume. It's not applied with an atomizer, it's applied with a turkey baster, and it just doesn't have the same effect. Now, I have not watched this damn thing because I think it would be the last straw. I think it would put my head in orbit, and it would be orbiting the Earth, for the next 100 years. So I've abstained just out of self-preservation from watching that. I can't stand it. It's just going to be awful. I'm assume the rest of you have seen it. I can't. I think it would just drive me insane. Tom, what did you think of that?
It was desperation and a half. And I kind of, to go off something what you just said, this is something that needs to be earned. You can't just go out there and do something like this and not expect it to get some form of backlash or be looked at and laughed at or seen as desperation, unless you've earned that right to have people play along, because they have to like you first. That's the problem.
You think that people are going to like them more or less when the cast are singing and pointing at you and calling you a nerd for liking Star Trek?
And no, and that's kind of why I have this picture up right now, because that's my exact point, what it was getting to before. And, to bring up the whole, I was trying to say, yeah, it may sound like it's something, this little tinfoil hat or conspiracy theory, but it's true. They have kind of appropriated our culture, not just Star Trek, like Andre said, but everything. And this is just the latest in the long line of things to get appropriated, and they're just taking it away from us in a way that is just unfair and using it to their own means and telling us all to go fuck ourselves in the end, and doing exactly to us what people have been doing for years by calling us nerds. But now that it's hip and cool, like Mecha said, they're trying to turn it into something they want instead of what it really is. You know, you can dress up a hamburger any way you want, but you can't call it a Big Mac unless it's a Big Mac. You know what I mean? So don't try and tell me it's a Big Mac when it's not. And that's what they're doing with the Star Trek. And we've said it before. And here we go again with this kind of crap. If you're going to do this, it has to be earned. You can't just go out there and act like a goofball and not expect it to look like you're an idiot unless you've earned it at this point. I mean, now if Patrick Stewart were to do something like this, he's earned that. You know what I mean? As a good example, he's earned the right to go out there and goof around and do goofy stuff like that because we respect him, and he's you know, gained our respect and love. So, but I know Doomcock's got to go here soon, so we got to get on.
Let's move on real quickly. But basically, yeah, there was that, but then there are other articles as well. And then there was this one in the New York Times, which promoted all of the women of Star Trek. And there's a lot to say about that. But the first thing that we can say about it is that it turned out to be paid for by CBS All Access, when it looked like it was this interview done by the New York Times. That's what they wanted it to look like, but it turned out it was just another piece of marketing material. Your thoughts on that, Doomcock?
Oh my God. You know, for a long time, I've been pointing out that any articles on comicbook.com, and I believe also CNET is also partly owned by CBS or something, and there's a couple of others that they're propaganda. I mean, they are basically shilling their own show, and they are not pillars of journalism. They are basically advertisements. And the fact that the New York Times went ahead and did this thing, but then disclosed it was was just almost unbelievable. It was like the worst embarrassment that has been inflicted, I think, on CBS heretofore. I mean, even with all of our videos, all of our analysis, when the New York Times basically outs you with this thing, to you know, the paper of record does this, it is stinging. I mean, am I wrong? Has there been any worse embarrassment for CBS to date? And isn't it their own doing, really?
There's going to be a worse embarrassment right now, because I just want to chime in quickly. You're going to get your word, but I can tell you confidently, this is something that we deliberately have not put into our previous videos because we couldn't document it. We could make the claim, but it would sound like conspiracy theory and like many other claims and things that we know, but that just sound too far-fetched. It has gone out of the video. That thing with the New York Times, them outing them, that wasn't the first. 9 in 10 articles that you see out there in any media have been bought and paid for and organized by CBS All Access. Money has changed hands for those to see print. The New York Times just outed them for it, which wasn't planned. So, yeah, we can now say it's much, much, much more than just the New York Times. And yeah, that is embarrassing for them, because what it does goes to show is that the interest among the entertainment journalists to actually write something on Star Trek Discovery on their own volition isn't there. And why would the New York Times accept that money? Well, for the same reason that any print media would, because of declining viewership numbers or readership numbers. So, yeah, what do the rest of you think about that? Carrying on. Tom?
Well, as we've said before, this is kind of nothing new. We all kind of knew this before. Not to mention, it's not just money all the time that's changing hands. It's usually favors of some type, to where there's even YouTube personalities and people of that nature that we won't get into, who don't even hide the fact that they're, you know, courted and wined and dined by the studios to no extent, and basically therefore probably giving a very biased review. Now, that doesn't mean that some of these reviews and some of these articles aren't real. As Andre said, at least 9 out of 10 probably. I'm willing to believe that number because the situation as it is, Star Trek Discovery is not seeming to gain any ground, no matter how much they want to push it, no matter how many, advertisements they buy. I don't even want to bring up certain things like the trolls and whatnot, but even they have gotten to a point where they're, getting as desperate as CBS is and trying to defend this show that and hide all the truth about it when it's out there, and we're not even, and they can say what they want about fake this, fake that. We're documenting the stuff. It's there. It's there. You can find it for yourself. Go right ahead. It's all out there. There's even more than what we put in our videos that is out there. It's easy to find. It's just, you just take the few minutes to do it with your computer and you can do it most of the time. So frankly, it's just whether or not you want to believe it or not. Just remember, and I've always told people this too on our show, and I know Doomcock's got to go, so I want to be quick about this. Always double check if you see something negative or positive, no matter what it is. If it's about something you enjoy, if you question the headline, see who owns the company that is writing the story. That is the first thing you should always do, because if it's pro or con one way or the other, chances are it's probably owned by some big corporation and they have a reason for a pro or a con view on something, no matter what it is. Anybody else got anything to say? Who's next, Mecha?
Oh, I spend a good 10 minutes ripping, like countering every single point of this argument. Before I even read the article, I basically listed off every one of these female characters and how horrible they are and how horribly offensive they are to women in general. They're horrible representations. You have Tilly, who's basically an idiot. If not, like it seems like they're making fun of her like people on the spectrum with her character. It really feels like it, whether she's supposed to be or not. You have Laurel, who's a rapist, murderer, torturer, Michael Burnham, mutineer, assaulter captain, Philippa Giorgio, racist, Tig Notaro's character, practically the best of all of them, but could possibly be Jeffrey Dahmer because she experiments on and does medical procedures to her whole entire crew without having any, medical training. Yeah, I am not happy about this article, and I ripped it a new one, and I ranted quite a bit about it.
Yes, absolutely. And that's speaking of ripping a new one and articles and stuff like that. That brings us neatly to the next topic. But before,
excuse me, guys, I have to run.
Yes, before that,
I'm so sorry.
We have one super chat for you. Before you go, that's Dr. Coffin Nails, who sent a $2 super chat at Doomcock. What do you have against Flo, my liege?
Oh my God! Look. The progressive ad campaign is doing all, like, trying to make her like this wonderful personality, like she's got her own show where there's commercials where she's playing multiple characters in her own family. There's episodes where she sings. It is so vapid. It is so just patently offensive. I don't have any opinion about the actress. I'm disgusted every time I see Flo at this point. I give a visceral reaction. If I can reach the remote, I'll mute the TV sound or change the channel. My God, it's just like the Geico cavemen way back when. I feel kind of similarly about the Geico Gecko, but at least he's never sung and played members of his family. And I mean, they're trying to act like this is like the commercial is entertainment, and it's not. It's just moronic and offensive, and I cannot stand the side of the woman. So that is my answer there.
So you don't want to do a progressive ad if they offer you one?
No, only if I can vaporize her. If they will let me vaporize Flo, I will be happy to go on and be the progressive representative. Sure. But other than that, no, I can't stomach it. But I just want to say thank you guys so much for having me on. It has been a pleasure, a genuine joy. Thank you, Mecha, Tom, Rob, and of course, Andre. I love you guys, and to all of you in the chat, hail and thanks, and have a good week, rest of your Sunday.
Thank you. Viva la Doomcock!
Viva!
Yeah. Go on conquering the earth.
Thank you, gentlemen. I'll see you later. Bye-bye.
Excellent. And that then brings us to the next topic, because now we've talked about how Star Trek Prime is not canon. We've talked about the desperation in their marketing, but that desperation extends a little bit further, because now they have even gone so far as to issue threats of physical attacks to those critical of the show, namely, more specifically, to one of us, even more specifically, to Mecha. Mecha, do you want to run us through what happened to those who may not be aware of it?
Well, it's a long story. It starts off with like a trolling tweet that somebody, I don't know if they actually work for CBS or if they're just a troll, just a Discovery fan, whatever, basically calling out myself, Doomcock, and it ended up getting retweeted by Pablo Hidalgo. Then it ended up getting back to whoever, people involved. So Chris Hunter, actually, the son of Jeffrey Hunter, who played original Captain Pike, left a comment on one of my videos, basically saying, "I'm gonna knock," or I hope your army knows martial arts because I'm gonna come and knock your teeth out," or something. Was the threat. Between that and on his own Facebook page, basically saying, "Yes, this is the worst hater in Star Trek. Please post nasty comments on her YouTube page." So yeah, that's part of it.
Yeah, that's pretty good. So basically, here we then have the son of Jeffrey Hunter threatening to physically attack you, a woman, an LGBT woman on top of that, and he threatens to physically assault you. And this is then days after Gillette launched this campaign of be like the best a man can be or whatever. And this is this guy's response: to go after a woman and threaten physical violence. That's quite stunning. Before we move on, I just want to hear your responses to that. Tom? You're muted.
Well,
Tom.
I did kind of get involved in it, unfortunately, or fortunately, however you want to put it, because this actually started on, what was it, Mecha? A Facebook group that I'm not going to mention, I guess. And somebody,
I have the original. Well, the original thing was because it went out through Pablo Hidalgo, and then I guess it was like Anson Mount's tweet, and well, this is like the original. This is as far back as I can find it. The original tweet. So I've blurred out the name of the person so he doesn't strike us. This wasn't Pablo Hidalgo. This is like the first person. Then Pablo Hidalgo retweeted it, I believe. And he's part of the Lucasfilm story group, so he has nothing to do with any of this.
Yeah. So then from there, Chris Hunter's son posted a few things on his Facebook group, I believe it was. And then he re-responded again. I think it was in your comment section on the next video you did.
Yeah, let me see. Do I have that one up? Oh, I just had that one up. I've got so many. Yeah, he had commented on one of my videos. Basically, one of the comments was to like calling me a sow and all kinds of names. And then, of course, the other comment was, I'm going to, kick your teeth in or whatever. Oh, let me see it. Here's the exact comment. I screenshot it. It's even edited. He even changed it. By the way, I hope your minions know martial arts. I know some things too, like knock your teeth out. Oh, not that I ever would, you pathetic sow. Just saying. He called me a sow a couple of times.
Yeah, and he also was going off on his Facebook, and between some trolls the day before, and which stemmed off the original tweet or whatever post, and then this situation, I kind of got involved because I'm like, look, we have never gone out of our way to, troll or even answer a lot of the trolls we get. But I'm not going to sit here and watch somebody, claim that we're a bunch of misogynistic, sexist pigs and then call Mecha troll face. And then on top, Chris Hunter come back and do this. And to be clear, he has claimed that a drunk friend did it for him. Okay. Mm-hmm. Take that as you will. That needs to be said, I guess. But he then came out with an apology not too long after that.
Yeah, but the apology was so weird. There's backhanded comments. He's saying, Yeah, like he's saying, if I think someone is hurting Star Trek, then I get nutty. But okay, but it was somebody else. Like he's trying to blame somebody else. He's trying to he's trying to say it's a friend. His friend was drinking. It's like, okay, was it your friend drinking, or did you just have too much to drink and say a bunch of crap? Like, I don't know. I'm speculating here. That's what it feels like to me, because the story keeps changing. He has tried to apologize. It feels like somebody said something to him, because the apology seems very weird. It just seems very weird, because like he kept insisting, oh, I'm working with some of your friends to restore your channel. Your channel is under attack. And yeah, by you. Like,
yeah, it's just the hypocrisy is astounding, because these people are claiming that we're doing all these things. We're not, which we said in the outset of the program here. We've never sent anybody out after anybody. We've never said to go attack anybody. This basically stemmed from you telling people that Star Trek Discovery's first episode of season 2 is online free on YouTube. So go over there and give them a watch.
Yeah, go give him a pity click. Go give him a thumbs up. I even said, go give him a thumbs up. Go give him a pity watch. And basically, oh yeah, she's sending her legions of trolls to mass downvote this video. Actually, no, I said go give him a pity thumbs up, because it doesn't matter on the algorithm or something.
They also claimed, and since Doomcock isn't here, I'm going to defend him too. They also claim that Doomcock said the exact same thing, which he did not. He didn't even mention that until after the fact. He kept getting tagged and stuff on that video, so he finally went in there. Look, the point is here, we've never gone out of our way, and I'm not going to sit by and watch somebody like Mecha be attacked when they claim we're a bunch of sexist, misogynistic pigs, and then turn around and call her names, threaten violence against her, and all this stuff, and do exactly what they say we're doing when we're not even close to doing that. And it's just ridiculous, and there's no reason ever to be attacking anybody personally over a damn TV show, period.
Well, and that's the big difference between, like, I scream to the wind on my YouTube channel, or on Midnight's Edge After Dark, or over here now. I don't go to them. I don't go to their pro Discovery channels. I don't go trolling them. And if I'm on a channel where they're fairly neutral, there are Star Trek channels that are very, very neutral. I keep my criticisms to just technical aspects and stuff. I don't just do the blanket, this show sucks stuff. I question. I don't go out of my way to try and attack the people who do like this series. And it's just kind of funny that they always come to us. They always come find our channels. They always come and complain to us.
So yeah, Rob, did you have?
Yeah, any thoughts on this?
I think he passed out.
Oh, no. I was muted. No, really. I mean, yeah, not cool guys. They keep it, like we said before, you got to keep it civil. When all is said and done, it's a TV show. Yeah, we're all passionate about it, but you gotta. I mean, physical threats is where you cross the line. Don't ever do that, man. No, don't. Yeah, really. I mean, maybe I'm looking at it different because I'm a sports fan. I could be in the stands. Boo, boo, you're terrible. Boo, boo, go back to the minors. Boo. And, but at the end of the day, like I said, and they kind of, the criticism rolls off people's backs. I've seen, but I don't know. This is kind of a new territory actually for a lot of fandom. Is that it's spilling over, fandom's always been ugly. I mean, there were riots outside of Rite of Spring in Paris in like the turn of the last century. But it's getting, it's with more contact between creators and fans. I the fact that it's easier now to let that ugly side go, and with the anonymity that the internet allows you to. I mean, it's sort of giving people license to do that.
And normally it wouldn't be that big of a deal. As we said, we just generally just ignore the trolling behaviors. But when you have somebody in the situation that Chris Hunter is in, where he's the son of a star of the original series, and he has recently been, helping promote CBS discuss with Pike being on the show. He's been helping promote that, I guess. Didn't you say that, Mecha? Somewhere you seen?
Oh yeah, there was an article where where Ethan Peck went to Adam Nimoy and the Nimoy family, and Anson Mount went to Chris Hunter, and they had a huge comicbook.com article about it, or ad for it, basically saying yes, they have the approval of the families and the legacy, the people in the legacy of Star Trek, and that's what pissed me off, because this is a legacy person. This is being threatened by Adam Nimoy or Chris Doohan or something.
Yeah, because it's one thing, like Rob said, if just to be an anonymous troll, but to be somebody who's actually a public figure connected to the franchise, that's a big deal. And you have to have a sense of responsibility to not stoop to that level in that way. Andre, you've been very quiet about this situation. I want to hear your take more than anything right now.
Yeah, well, here's the thing, though. I think the reason that happened, and to Mecha specifically, is quite simple, because Star Trek Discovery, it's the proponent of a certain intersectional ideology, and many of its supporters, both in front of and behind the camera and otherwise involved, follow that ideology too. Now, according to that, you, me, Rob, Doomcock, we can all to some extent be ignored because we're white men, and so we don't matter. But Mecha is a woman, and an LGBT woman, and because of that, she's supposed to act and think a certain way and like certain things. And something like Discovery, that should be something which, according to the program, you really, really should love and be a proponent of, but you're not, and that hurts. To them, that's, I'm not going to say dangerous, but it's not a good look to have someone like you critical of the series saying the kind of things you do. So I guess that just makes them go a little bit overboard and be a little bit too impulsive and let a little bit too much of their own nasty personality traits get shown, is what I would imagine happened there. Now, it should be mentioned, though, that this Hunter kid, he did apologize, however forced it did seem. So just to be clear, no one here is advocating to go after him or anyone else associated with it. Let's be better than them.
Yeah, I always stress that.
Yeah, I think it's really disgraceful to stoop to those levels over someone who is just, as you constantly say, you're just sharing your opinions for an audience.
Yeah, and it's like, I don't go to them. I don't go shouting and blocking their lines at the conventions. It really feels like, that he took it so personally. I'm only speculating here, but it feels like he just took it personally that he wasn't going to have a job on the convention scene or something.
Well, and Andre says kid. It should be pointed out that this kid is 67 damn years old.
Yeah, he's in his 60s. So.
He's acting like a 2-year. And that's all I'm going to say about the situation. But yeah, like I said, I got a little too involved than I should have been in the first place. But I'm just flabbergasted that it's gotten to this point. Basically,
it just goes to show how toxic Star Trek has become, and I think that is the most horrible thing to come from Star Trek Discovery. Is look at what Star Trek was supposed to be, how it was supposed to be something positive and unifying, and instead it has become something that splits different fans apart, and it splits different factions of people apart. And I think that is the most horrible thing about it, and that shows true legacy.
Well, and it seems like Hollywood is adopting this almost as some kind of promotional strategy anymore. And I mean, we've kind of brought this up to a point before, but I'm seeing it again now already with the Child's Play remake. You're already getting two camps that are bunkering down, getting ready for this war, and it's going to be 6 months of hell. I can see it already. I posted one comment on the trailer, and it got over 100 responses in I don't know how long. Most of them just people going back and forth and arguing over it. It's just like, here we go again. Another one's coming. It's just the same shit, different franchise.
Yeah. Rob, any thoughts before we move on to some more super chats and other questions?
No, just that. Yeah, Jeffrey does this Hunter guy. He's what, 67? You should know better. That's all. You should know better. At that age, you should know better.
Getting this from Rob is this is like getting yelled at. So
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, let's move on to something much more, much cooler and much more heartwarming, namely super chats. And the next one, actually, it's been a little while ago, so we're going to do some catching up right now, is from Ravelon1, who sends us $9.99, saying, "Great report. I believe you guys absolutely nailed it. To JJ and Kurtzman, I would quote Edith Keeler. A lie is a very poor way to say hello." Yes, absolutely. Thank you for the kind words. A lot of work went into that, so it's very rewarding to see that people think we nailed it. And on that note, Michael Canule also sends a $9.99 super chat saying, "Great job, everyone." And Armchair Warlord sends a $2 super chat saying, "I hope Anas Abdeen ends up as a rich Kuwaiti sheikh." And of course, you will recall that Anas Abdeen is the independent game developer who developed the tardigrades game that Star Trek Discovery seemingly, shamelessly ripped off.
I just call that drive the plagiarism drive anymore. Anytime I have to mention the Spore drive.
Yeah.
And we supported Nas, and we've talked to him quite a bit. He's a very, seems like a very decent gentleman, and we feel bad for everything he's had to go through, and we support him in his fight against.
Yeah,
CBN.
we're gonna have plenty more tardigrades coverage in the future when we know a little bit more about how the case is going to progress. Then we're gonna do a full expose on that. Until then, Grendelfan84 also sends us a $9.99 super chat saying, "What are your thoughts on the Chaos on the Bridge documentary about the making of Star Trek The Next Generation? I'm not the most knowledgeable fan, but I found it very interesting and hilarious." Guys, have you seen it? Tom?
Tom, you've seen it?
Yeah.
Well, I was just going to say, if you want some coverage on Anas's case, do check out Midnight's Edge After Dark, which is our sister channel, obviously. And also Mecha's done a little bit, of course, and the rest have too. So if you want to catch up with that and know what's going on there. Which episode is that again? Remind me again, Rob, because you're my guru on that.
This is not an episode. No, this is a particular documentary. So I take in Tom's case, the answer is no, you haven't seen it.
I have not, then. No,
yeah.
I haven't.
Chaos on the Bridge.
No, I haven't.
I've seen it. It's actually very informative, very entertaining. I highly recommend it to anyone who enjoys the document. It's good subject matter too. It really is.
I'm gonna write it down now.
Yeah. Mecha, have you seen it?
No, I haven't.
Okay, do check that out. I concur with Rob. That documentary is very Midnight's Edge, let's say. And I'm a huge fan of it, love it. So yes, everyone go check out Chaos on the Bridge. It just goes to show that Star Trek and production trouble is nothing new. However, before they didn't have to deal with the rights issues they're dealing with right now. And that's a major freaking difference. Anyway, moving on. Lee Crystal 1 also sends a $5 super chat asking, "What do you guys think would be the best case scenario for Star Trek now?" Tom?
Well, we're in a sticky situation because the merger is looming that could possibly reunite Star Trek under one roof, but there's a possible fly in that ointment. So I'm sure Andre will have a little bit more to say about that respect. Basically, all they can do is just try to take it back to, what the fans love in the first place, and that is adhere to canon, give us good stories. It doesn't matter what kind of new characters you introduce or what kind of scenarios you introduce, as long as it's Trek. You know, there's a way of doing something new and fresh in a universe that adheres to the past. Look at TNG. Even though they made a few enhancements here and there, they always tried to generally at least explain it for the super fans. And I'm one of those fans who generally doesn't really care too much about aesthetic stuff so much, as long as the story and all that kind of stuff is good. So normally I'm not somebody who gives I don't really care too much about the changes in, like, say, the JJ Trek. That doesn't affect me as much as some fans, but I understand that it does bother people. You know what I mean? So I am there with you guys on this part of it. And as far as unifying the rights again, that's about the only chance we got, right, Andre?
More or less. But I'll get back to that after we hear from Mecha first, and then Rob.
Oh, how to fix Star Trek?
Yeah.
They need for me, they need to just admit this is a different universe. They need to apologize and say, "Look, we tried to trick you guys. It was a tactic for money, just to get you guys to watch, and we're sorry." That would fix it for me. And they need to get it under the same roof. They need to get the real writers in there. They need to get rid of Bad Robot and all their secret hideout and all those people. Just get rid of all of them. Sadly, all the people who could make good Star Trek are working on the Orville, so, you know, we still have the Orville. But that would be where I'd start, at least, you know.
Or that, or I will interject my little solution I said the other day. I think it was with the podcast with you yesterday, actually, Andre, where I said, or was it the other day with you guys, where I said Disney just needs to buy Star Trek and then make Orville Star Trek canon and just fix it from there. It was a joke, but it's almost sadly true.
Yeah.
Well,
Rob,
how do you fix Star Trek? Oh boy. Do you remember that scene in the Road Warrior where they're going over the laundry list of things that the truck needs? Got a cracked radiator, broken axle, broken CV joint. You know, it's got to go through all this. It's just like there's so many things wrong now, and the one thing you have to, and at this point, if you're looking to Discovery to fix Star Trek, it's not going to happen. Discovery has to end, first of all, before you can fix Star Trek. End it. You disavow it, saying, okay, this is, we're sorry. We didn't know what we were doing. And then you start anew. You have a series set after Nemesis. You can have it set 50, 35, 50 years into the future after Nemesis or after Voyager or whatever. And then you bring in people who love Star Trek, and ultimately you have to remove the old saying, the fish rots from the head. You got to get rid of the head. You got to get rid of Alex Kurtzman. You've got to get rid of him. He has got to go. Nothing gets fixed with Alex Kurtzman remaining. He's got to go. I mean, if you could extend an olive branch to Brian Fuller, see if he'll come back, because this was supposed to be a very different series from what everything I read with Brian Fuller. And as soon as he left, that was when things went tits up. But you have got to get rid of Alex Kurtzman. You've got to disavow Star Trek Discovery. You've got to get rid of nothing. You just render it moot and pointless. Because, like I said, they've done far more damage to the brand within the last 2 years than anything that has happened within the last 50. And I'm not exaggerating when I say that. There is it can be fixed. Star Trek can be fixed. It's just Alex Kurtzman is not going to be the one to fix it.
No. That's not the gentleman we want.
Yeah. I am in agreement about that. The thing is that the rights makes this a really, really complicated situation. So in an ideal world, you would want the rights under one roof. However, that may be easier said than done. I hope there is a way that can happen. But even if it's just too convoluted a mess that it cannot be solved, anytime soon. I still think that there is a way out of this, even under the current situation. Even with the current situation where thing has to be 25% different, there is still a way to solve this. There is still a way that Trek can be fixed. However, 3 things has to go. One of them is Alex Kurtzman. Again, I'm nothing personal against the guy. I'm sure he's nice and all of that, but he's not the right fit for Star Trek. He used to be like the partner of Robert Orci. And of the 2, it was Robert Orci that was the Star Trek fan of the bunch, not Kurtzman. And now Kurtzman is the one running the show. And we've seen with all of the things that he's tried to run before, whether it be Universal's Dark Universe or the Spider-Man Sony Universe version 1 that Sony tried to set up, didn't really work out. And all of the things that he's bringing with him to Star Trek, it's not really working out. So if he has to stay on, then let him stay on in some producing capacity where he's producer in name only, and he spends most of his time working on some other projects. Then you need to get in some new showrunner that can take things in a different direction. So basically, Kurtzman is one thing that has to go. The other thing that has to go is Star Trek Discovery. There's no rescue. It has to go. All the damage that Rob was referring to, well, that's due to Star Trek Discovery. It's not the Kelvin movies. It's not. Star Trek Into Darkness didn't do wonders, but really, those movies, they do have some fans out there, and they are completely isolated, taking place in a different universe, so they can be ended, revisited, whatever, it doesn't matter. They're a separate thing, and that's fine. But Star Trek Discovery is where the problem really lies, so that needs to be cancelled, and then it more or less needs to be rebooted. They don't have to go and make some statement saying that, oh, sorry, we made a mistake, yada yada. You have to go that far. They'd never do that anyway, but just make it clear one way or the other that it's getting the Ghostbusters 2016 treatment. It never happened, stricken from canon. And what they should do instead is then use the Picard series, push it back a year or something, and then restructure it to get it more in line with what Star Trek is and what Star Trek is supposed to be. And of course, have it still relevant for today, but do it in a way where it isn't as divisive as Star Trek Discovery is. That's my chief worry for the Picard series, that it's going to carry on with the same ideology that's going to make it every bit as divisive as Discovery. If that is in there, it has to go. It has to be rewritten to make it more Trek-like and bring back the positivity and optimism for the future, because that is something we really need these days, and use that and then steer forward. Don't revisit any period that we've seen before, because then you go into really a hornet's nest. So I slightly disagree with you there, Rob. No, you don't bring back Brian Fuller, because Brian Fuller, it was his idea to revisit that period again, although he, from what we have been told, maybe we've been told wrong, but from what we've been told, his idea was that something was going to line up with canon. But still, it's such a high-risk gamble to revisit that period. It would be far better to just let that be history, and then on TV, just move forward. Start with an aging Picard and go forward in time, not backwards. And then on film, then yeah, bring in the Tarantino Trek and set that in the Kelvinverse or whatever. But just on TV, you have to have proper Star Trek. And that's the third thing that has to go. CBS All Access. It's a failed experiment. It will never work. The only thing that it does is that it brings back piracy in a big way. It's a platform that won't work. So for the next series, they need to partner up with some other service that actually has a chance of succeeding, or just go straight on TV to like a limited high-end series and make it exclusive on TV and make it something that people actually want to watch. Those would be my prescriptions for how to solve Star Trek for the future.
And then just start a group called Star Trek Recovery for those who will miss Discovery and for those who have been abused by Discovery. There you go.
Yeah, the people who will miss Discovery will get over it. They can go and complain about episode 9 instead or something like that, or Captain Marvel or what have you not. So there's plenty other things for them to shift their attention towards.
Star Trek Recovery, TM Midnight's Edge.
Yeah. Moving on to the next super chat. Dr. Franklin Anderson sends us $1.99, and he suggests that they should rewrite Axanar as an Orville fan film. Oh, we'll be sure to bring that idea to Alec Peters, but I'm not sure he'll be receptive to it. So, yeah. And then Sissy Vax, I guess that's how you pronounce it, sends a $2 super chat and says that Jet Reno is Dr. Frankenstein. Well, I don't know. I haven't seen those episodes yet. That's what I have you guys for. So what do you think?
I think they just wanted you to say Frankenstein.
Ah, okay. Frankenstein. Yeah, the whole series is a Frankensteinian mess. There's no argue about that. And Rain Silversplash sends a $5 super chat with no comment. So thank you loads. And Clear Mountain sends a $2 super chat and asks who would like to see an Andromeda reboot. Mecha?
I didn't see Andromeda in the first place, so I'd rather catch up on the original. I don't know. I'm so tired of reboots. What do you think, Tom?
I'm sick of reboots. Go forward. Go forward. The Picard series is a step in the right direction, but it has to be canon. It can't be Prime's Picard. So, yeah, we have that issue. Right?
I'm not familiar with Andromeda enough to say, so I don't know. So I'll punt on that question.
Well, yeah. I mean, I thought we were talking Star Trek, but yeah, I don't know enough about that. But Rain Silversplash did actually have a question. He sent it later on. He said, I tried to super chat this. The current culture is so narcissistic, they go ballistic if they don't see themselves reflected in pop culture. They aren't the majority, but they make the most noise. That's a good point.
Absolutely, yeah. Little to add to that. Then let's move on to the next super chat, and that would be from. Oh, I forgot to answer. Sorry, I've also never seen Andromeda, so I have no thoughts about it one way or the other.
Sorry, I have never seen it either. I thought we were talking. Yeah, I was looking for the Rain Silversplash question. Full disclosure.
Never seen Andromeda, so yeah, I'm sure it's cooler and everything. But yeah, and Inferno 0121 sends a $1 from New Zealand, so thanks for that. And Tim Riggs sends a $10 super chat, saying legacy media is corrupt. Advertisers are their customers, not their audience. There is no reason to be objective or to be advocates for audiences. That is why I look for places like Midnight's Edge. Well, thank you. I don't necessarily disagree with your assessment. Tom, Rob, any thoughts?
No, I don't disagree.
Thank you. Don't disagree. No,
and
thank you for the kind words.
Yeah. And Mark C also sends a $10 super chat. I mentioned to Doomcock that they picked nerds because they thought we were weak. Sadly, after being picked on most of our lives, we are stronger than most. They were mistaken.
Yep.
No, they pick nerds because they're trying to appeal to the Big Bang Theory audience. That's where they think their audience is. So it's just a marketing thing. Well, if we can appeal to those who like the Big Bang Theory, maybe we can lure some of that audience. You know, because nerds are kind of a cool thing now. We show how nerds are. It's more accessible, and how if people are more, it's more of a it's more of a symbol of pride to be a nerd now. That's where they're going with that. You know, that's yes, exactly. And they've actually, from what I've been told, they've made a few Big Bang Star Trek Discovery references on the Big Bang Theory, so they're trying to get some cross-pollination with that too.
Oh, I haven't seen the last season yet. Let me guess, they're supportive of it because it's also CBS.
Oh yeah. Even though
I don't even want to see that.
It's still their biggest. It's Big Bang. Say what you want about the Big Bang Theory. Yeah, I stopped watching around season 5 or 6, but they still get killer ratings.
Yeah, I quit like 2-3 years ago. So.
Yeah, all right. Moving on to the next super chat, which is from, shall we see, Pixel Quadrat again sends a €2 super chat. Were there critical comments during STD Con panels? Yeah, they've been to quite a few conventions so far, haven't they? I haven't been to any of the Destination Europe since prior to Star Trek Discovery being on air. So, guys, do you know anything about it, of critical questions at conventions?
Well, there was that one incident where Anthony Rapp was asked, where they asked a panel, and Anthony Rapp was just like leaning over, almost ready to spring out of his chair. Where it was actually a female fan, I believe. She said, "Well, you know what you're doing doesn't really line up with Canon, you know." And he just kept saying, "Oh, don't worry, just watch. We're going to show you how it lines up." He was getting really agitated. He was almost defensive to the point where, like I said, where he was going to jump out of the chair and I don't want to say charge this poor lady, you know, but. It was just this really awkward moment they had. I think that was at Comic-Con last year, San Diego Comic-Con.
I've not been to any real Comic-Cons, full disclosure. So do they like screen the people who go up to ask these questions and stuff like that? I'm sure. Or does anybody know here on the panel?
That depends. That depends very much so. Like, for instance, on the Fantastic Four panel that was at Comic-Con, that was very screened. Other panels where there's no reason to suspect that anyone is going to be nasty, basically, then no, there's no screening. It's like free for all.
Well, and we got 2 different stories that came out of the few times that they have done stuff in public like that. And I'm not going to get into it all now, so because we don't have anything to really support one way or the other. How they've been treated by cons and situations when they do show up, like CONs, not, you know, the Comic-Cons things.
Mark Tuttle just said in the comment that the Discovery panel 2 years ago was not screened. I just saw.
Okay, well, I didn't know. I just thought I was curious on that.
Yeah.
So, I mean, back then they probably, I don't know if they would now, probably, considering they know that there was a chance that somebody's going to try and ask them something they don't want to answer. But again, I don't encourage anybody to do anything like that. There's no reason to be a dickhead. You know?
Exactly. And Mark C. also had a great comment. Most panels are not screened. Sometimes they will plant people. Oh, I definitely believe that. Yeah.
The only advice I would give is just ask a thoughtful question. Don't ask a gotcha. Just ask a thoughtful question. Make them say, "Wow, that's a really good question." You know, just ask something that's the only advice I would have to give.
Yeah, absolutely. Like, there's no reason to be a dick for language. There's no reason to be nasty to anyone involved.
I'll watch my potty mouth. But you can tell in my interview with Nicholas Meyer, I wasn't trying to be standoffish with him or anything. And when I asked him the questions the way without saying this, without sounding like conceited or anything on his part, but the way he wanted to be asked, then he answered them. If you really listen to the interview, and that's kind of the same thing the approach I would take with any kind of, you know, challenging question you have for a convention, you know, panel or anything like that, a thoughtful way. But like the one he loved was when I brought up, you know, how did you feel about the fact that they were going to definitely use a lot of swear words and stuff like that in Discovery?
That's something that we could be better at, incidentally. So,
and I'm going to try. I'm trying.
Sorry.
I love my colorful metaphors, though.
I just wish you would ask them what was the original plan for Eddie Murphy to be in Star Trek 4. That's the only question I would ask them.
I know I should have.
Opportunities not taken. Anyway, moving on. The hunky, chunky, funky monkey. Rob, you say that better than me. Basically, he also then sent a £2 super chat saying Hunter acted like a typical schoolyard bully. Yeah, it's hard to disagree with that. Cute Nudge sends a $2.99 super chat. When has Disney buying a franchise fixed it? I can think of 2 instances. But before I do that, guys, can you think of any instances where Disney buying a franchise has fixed it?
Marvel.
Yeah, well, except for the comics, yeah.
Yeah, well, at least with the movies, it's not so much fixed it, but infused it with more money and
broader reach.
Yeah, and let me give him a few more minutes here.
Yeah, well, the correct answer was Marvel. Now, of course, Marvel Studios, that was always a separate thing, which only later came under their umbrella. However, the Netflix stuff, which is still Disney Productions, although they're aired on Netflix or broadcast on Netflix, 2 of those have been on other ownership before. Daredevil was first under Fox ownership, and Marvel certainly did a heck of a lot better job with that. And The Punisher was first with Artisan, first it was with New World Pictures, and then with Artisan, and then with Lionsgate, that all made 1 movie each. Yes, Artisan are the ones that made the Punisher 2004 movie, and then they were bought prior to its release, but it was actually Artisan that made it. The only Punisher movie made by Lionsgate was Punisher Warzone in 2008. All of those movies had issues, so I would also go as far as to say that Disney fixed the Punisher, ironically. And then Mark Tuttle sent a $2 super chat saying, just watched the video, great reporting, thank you, hope it wasn't too headache-inducing, which I hear loads of people are struggling with. Can't blame them because it's a lot of difficult material to go through. And Harbitten sends a £5 super chat asking Mecha, if True Trek returns, can the STD characters be redeemed or should they be forgotten? This one's for you, Mecha.
Forgotten, blown into an airlock, never to be mentioned again. You know, just like how he never mentioned, or Spock never mentioned he had a sister. I don't ever want to hear of these characters again. I don't want to hear of the spore drive unless it's from the video game, and I don't want to be reminded of this grotesque Klingon sort of era. I just want it to go away and start over. Let's start over.
Yeah. And then we have a $10 super chat from Michael Dietze, who says, sorry if I butchered your name, but that's how it looks like it's supposed to be pronounced. Make all new Star Trek canon and the future. Quietly let the fans know it's a return to the original universe, so we can write off all of the BS Trek as alternate universe. Salvaging STD into canon is hopeless. Yes, agreed completely. And then I think we are out of the super chats for now, unless I've missed some. Tom?
I think you got them all. You did get the very, very, very first one, right?
Provided that the very, very, very first one was from Harbitten, sending a $2 super chat saying wacky waving and inflatable arm flailing tube man, then yes, I got them all. If there was one before that, then no, I missed one.
The Perpetual Punster sent one before we did start for $5. Said, hail Andre, Rob, Tom, Random42, and Doomcock. Chat, never thought I'd look forward to Star Trek getting past its prime.
That's awesome. Anyway, thanks for the.
I think that's the only one you missed. If we did miss any more, please, guys, tag me in them and shout me out, and I'll make sure I get to them.
Yeah.
So I think we did get them all otherwise, other than the one John Ridges just sent us.
Yeah.
Which says $5 and says, do you think that CBS pulling the episode from YouTube a couple of days ago means anything? Well, there's a good segue to talk about that a little bit. Apparently, they did pull the first episode of the second season, which we did bring up earlier. It took it well over a week to crawl past 1 million views. What do we have to say about that real quick?
I guess that the reason it was pulled is quite simply because the numbers were embarrassing. It wasn't growing the way that they wanted. It got relatively quickly to 1 million views, and then it tapered off after that. The like to dislike ratio was not what they would have liked, and I guess that the comments were not a good look on them. So yeah, I think that's the reason that.
And I think somebody had pointed out to me, and I can't remember for sure on this. I'd have to go back and look at the messages and the screenshots they showed me. But I think they actually purged the likes and dislikes at one point. Didn't you say something about that, Mecha?
I heard that they had purged the likes and dislikes, and they had turned off comments or something for a while. But now they've completely deleted the whole thing, right?
Yeah, I think so.
Yeah,
so. And also it was only available for those of you in the US.
Yeah, that does need to be pointed out, but still, Rob and I pointed this out, I think, on a recent review. We also reviewed Rise of the TMNT, which is on Nickelodeon, which is kind of related to the same company. And even though they put their first episode online free to view too, that thing went past 1 million a lot faster. So that just tells us there's got to be no. And yes, granted, you can watch Star Trek Discovery on CBS All Access and Netflix all over the world, right? And this is just in the US. I get that. But you could watch TMNT for free, or, well, basically for free on the cable you already have if you have cable or dish. And there's still a lot more people watching Rise of the TMNT than there was watching Discovery online. That should say a lot, I think. What do you think about that, Andre?
Yeah, it basically just goes to confirm that there really isn't the demand that they want. There really isn't. It's not generating the kind of interest, because if it was, CBS All Access really doesn't have that big numbers. It should have more than 1 million views. Like, it took them days to.
It took them a week to get to 1 million.
Yeah, it took them a week to pass our biggest Star Trek videos.
Right. And that was what I was, to clear up my rambly point from before. People don't have access to Star Trek Discovery, so the demand and the desire to see it for free should be there more so than Rise of the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles is what I was trying to say.
Yeah, they should have people like going, oh, I can't watch this on, I don't have CBS All Access, I'm going to watch it for free on YouTube. That I even gave them, thousands of people to go over and give them a pity click, and it still it struggled. I didn't even know about it. They did such a crap job marketing this thing that I didn't even find out about it until 2 days after the video dropped. And I talk about this stuff all the time.
Considering the marketing splurge, that says a lot. That does too. And not only that, just the curiosity factor should be there, is what I was trying to get to as well. Is like, I might as well check out what everybody's talking about. Because people will say, oh, it's in the top streaming shows according to Parrot Analytics. Now, Rob, I know you love to say this. It's in number 7 right now in Parrot Analytics for streaming. What is Parrot Analytics?
Parrot Analytics is a BS metric that they concocted to inflate their numbers. And this company has actually got a pretty good scam going. They're not measuring the actual people that are watching the show. They are measuring something called demand expressions. And I'm using finger quotes when I do that. What demand expressions is, they are tracking the online discussion, online references for Star Trek Discovery on the internet. The problem with that is when Star Trek Discovery gets a mention, it could very well be us saying Star Trek Discovery sucks. Star Trek Discovery is terrible. Star Trek Discovery is the worst thing I've ever seen. They're not actually, it's not actually eyeballs on the screen. Because they had said, oh, yeah, it's 57 million demand expressions. So, yeah, there's not even 57 million people watching Star Trek Discovery in the U.S. There's not even 57 million CBS All Access subscribers. Nowhere near it. So how can you say? How can you measure something? It's a, like I said, these guys got a pretty good racket going. They finally found somebody invented a metric that doesn't exist in the real world.
And the bottom's falling out on that too, because we recently did a report on After Dark about one of these companies that basically got found out to be bullshit.
Oh yeah, yeah. Was it the head of Reddit said it? The former CEO of Reddit said that
she used to work. Yeah, she used to work for one of these companies or something like that, or she knew somebody or some or other. And yeah, basically, her and quite a few other people called them out for the bullshit that they are. They're just a bunch of hokey numbers to make, you know, something look good that isn't, and sell advertising and other bullshit. And yeah, Dean Mikatik, sorry if I'm pronouncing your name really bad. He says there's been no advertising in the UK from Netflix. I'm assuming he's talking about the second season. That means Netflix just doesn't want to spend the money to advertise it. I've heard a lot of people say to me in their private chats it's not even showing up on their Netflix originals, which they prominently display here in the US. So I got to imagine they do the same there. Oh, geez.
Yeah. Anyway, guys, we have to wrap this up soon. So let's get.
We missed a super chat. It looked like from Mark.
Yes,
C.
I saw. We missed the super chat. Tell us what. We're sorry about that. That was unintentional. Repeat what you said, and we'll get right to it.
We're weak, sadly. Now we got that one.
Just repeat what you said in the comments, and we'll address that right away.
I'm trying to find it here. Well, I know we addressed the one that I'm finding. Let's see here.
In the meantime, Kush sent a $9.99 super chat, tuning in late. Just wanted to issue a non-Patreon thanks for the Big Trek video. Thank you. That's much appreciated.
We appreciate that. It was, I think it nearly killed Andre and I, and almost robbed you.
Yeah, that video almost broke all of us. You have no idea how many late nights went into getting that thing done. So yeah. Did we find the super chat from Mark C yet?
No, but it looks like Shenyango, we missed one of his too. Says, any thoughts on how Alita looks thus far? It steadily went from a 33 to 62 on Rotten Tomatoes. We haven't covered it too much, but Andre, do you have a take on that?
I haven't covered it, period, because I know nothing about it. I don't know the source material. I know Cameron is producing. I know it wasn't tracking very well, and it was looking to be a super bomb. If it's done better, or if it's doing good in reviews or something, awesome, good for it, good for its fans. So wish it the best. But I have no thoughts about it other than that. In the meantime, while we try to find Mark C's question, Mills had a question. Do you think there is a coincidence that beyond reshoots are ordered, the trailer is released with The Force Awakens negatively received, and Axanar being sued? Basically, you think there's a connection between the reshoots of Star Trek Beyond, the negative trailer reception to Star Wars The Force Awakens, and the lawsuit of Axanar? At least that's how I understood the question. I hear that Rob didn't understand the question either. So.
I don't know. Yeah, it just, I don't know. It just seems like coincidence of timing. All these things happen at once.
Yeah, I think that there is more to it, but I think that those things specifically may be a coincidence. I am not convinced that Star Trek Discovery and Axanar was not a coincidence. I think there's something to it there. But the Beyond reshoots, I don't know. I don't have a reason to think that that's anything other than pure coincidence.
Yeah, I'm not sure the one we missed, unless he just didn't hear us address the one. But I told him, if you hear me right now, Mark C, at me in the chat so I can readdress the one that you thought we missed. So I thought we addressed this. The only other Mark C one I have here right now. I mentioned to Doomcock that they picked nerds because they thought we were weak. Sadly, after being picked on most of our lives, we're stronger and the most, and they were mistaken. I thought we addressed that one.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. So I mean, I think we missed it all together. And Rob and I have been doing our best to catch them all when they pop up here.
Yeah, so I bet there's an active chat. We'll see it all later, so we'll all make it up to you. But to anyone that we missed in the super chat, we're really sorry about that, and we really appreciate it. And just let us know, and we'll get right back to your question.
And I didn't hear if we did Captain Hair one while I was looking there.
Yeah. And then in the meantime, while we've been looking, Dreamer Out There sends a $5 super chat saying, I feel like I've been using the Prime universe before the Jar Jar verse was a thing. Did they make this term up or did they co-op it? I think they made it up.
Very good question.
I think they made it up. Do you know anything to the contrary?
Mecha, didn't you do a poll the other day?
I did a poll.
Somebody post something interesting to that effect? Tell us what they found.
I did a poll saying, hey, has anybody heard the term Prime before the JJ universe? Actually, Angry Mr. Flibble, total shout out to him. He's been like super great behind the scenes and stuff. I think it's a guy. I don't even know. Found in the original script, the first use of it, that they actually state it in the JJ universe in the movie. I think he found a couple of other things too. But according to most people, most of us, according to at least my poll, so take that with a grain of salt because a lot of my followers tend to not really like Discovery. But no, according to my followers anyway, most people only heard it once the JJ universe came out. So let me see if I can find my actual result.
I know that was when the official name for that timeline was used. Moving on in the meantime, Captain Hare sends another $2 super chat. Can we get audio of Andre binging STD to catch up? Well, I don't know if you can get audio to me catching up, but you can certainly get audio of me having catched up, because I'm planning on doing another Star Trek Discovery roundtable following the release of the 5th episode. Why the 5th episode? Because that marks the point where Harbuts and the other, I've forgotten showrunner's name, basically where the
Reichenberg.
Yes, Berg and Harberts, when they were booted, they were the showrunners for the first 5 episodes, and after that point is where Kurtzman took over as showrunner. So I'd like to do a round live discussion like this one on the first 5 episodes. So then you'll be hearing my thoughts on the series so far. But the groaning as I catch up, that's gonna, not gonna be pretty.
Take some Dramamine.
I think I saw another question here. Eric Kelly just asked, no super chat, but still a cool question. Andre, what is better, Star Trek 5 or STD? Ooh, that's literally asking what is preferable, plague or cholera. I know there's an answer between the two of them. Honestly, if it was up to me, I'd strike them both. Just remove them both from canon, remove them both from the libraries. Nothing of importance will have been lost in either case. Honestly, if I had to choose between Star Trek 5 and STD, I'm one of those people that consider Star Trek 5, not the motion picture, to be the worst of the original movies. Oh, that's a tough one. That's a really tough one. I think I'm going to have to go with STD. No, I cannot answer. I cannot answer it. They both have to go. They're both awful. Yeah, they're both awful. That's my answer.
Well, at least 5 has Kirk and Bones and Spock kind of having some interesting sort of character moments, but...
Yeah, but it also has them looking for God.
Yeah.
In gambling, we call that a push. It means there are no winners.
But it does have some quotable lines, what does God need a starship? And it has some memorable moments, as cringe as they may be.
Yeah, but they're memorable, but they're not memorable for any good reason at all.
That's true.
What does God need with a starship.
Yeah.
I have such a soft spot for the originals since Discovery came out, though. I'm
Kevin Street had a good point. They were camping and climbing mountains. Fun. Yeah, that's one good thing about it. The camping in the beginning, and after that, it all went to hell.
That's because that was basically just an extension of Part 4.
Exactly.
But
So
I will be the actual, like, because I know Doomcock loves this movie, Part 5. So I'll be one of the few who actually, I don't hate Part 5. I don't hate it. It's not one of the best Star Trek movies, but I don't hate it. I'm not one of those who actually thinks it's that bad. So just to be one of the different voices on the group.
Yeah, exactly. Anyway, we have to round it up real soon now, because it's starting to we're starting to run quite a bit over time. So unless you can find the final missing super chats, which I hope you can.
Unless it was very early on, I think he had one. Let me get that up here again.
Mata Nui had another cool question, which was, why does Midnight's Edge sound like it be a horror channel? The fun story. The name actually was coined not for the current iteration of the channel, but for the original iteration of channel, when it was supposed to be about the darker side of comics before we intended to step into like movies and production and stuff like that. And then we wanted a name which emoted the darker, more horror-like comics, if you want, you know, like DC Vertigo and Marvel Max. And then we also look to like older like lines, like the precursors to Marvel Knights, which were Midnight Suns and Marvel Edge. That's where that comes from. So if it sounds horror-ish, then that's by coincidence. Oh, Mark C sent another $2 super chat. Star Trek V has great music. Mark, can you repeat what you said earlier so we can?
Unless this is it. Did we answer this one? Nobody buys Prime or Cobra merchandise. Hell, I refuse to pick up the Enterprise Hot Wheels. We did that one. So that's
I think we did that one. I think we did that one.
I'm not sure.
Yeah. Anyway, Read by Nature sent a £5 super chat. I'm not a big fan of Star Trek 4, but I understand others were having a whale of a time. Yes, they sure did.
I see what you did there. Yeah, I'm sorry. We must have missed that one somewhere. I'm still looking, but I can't go back in the chat, so I have all just what I saved here in my little chat thing here. And let's see here.
Yeah. All right, then it's going to have to be for next time. Then we'll.
Here it is. That's it. I mentioned we covered it. So I mentioned to Doomcock they pick nerds because they thought we were weak. Sadly, after being picked on most of our lives, we are stronger than most. They are mistaken. I thought we covered that one. That's the only.
I think we covered it twice.
I know. Yeah. So I'm not sure which one he's talking about. Then I'm really sorry.
Yeah. Anyway, Mark C sent another $2 super chat saying, I think it was lost, no sweat. All right, well, thanks for not having any hard feelings. Your support is very, very much appreciated, so ask anytime. Tim Riggs just sent a $5 super chat saying, I still want to see a world-class Bullshitters Midnight's Edge Mecha collaboration live stream. Well, you never know what might happen in the future. You never know what might happen in the future, so just stay tuned. And you never know. We're happy to work with many who have some good coverage and who use common sense in their coverage. And with that, I think that we're going to have to call it a night. So, any parting words from you, Mecha? Where can people find you?
I am MechaRandom42. You should be able to just go, look me up or click my name in the chat. I yell and rant, and I'm also on Midnight's Edge After Dark all the time as the giggling airhead, I suppose. So, and Twitter, of course, Patreon, all the usual places.
Tom and Rob, where can people find you in addition to Midnight's Edge, the main channel?
Well, I first just got to say congratulations to Mecha on passing 20,000
Oh,
subscribers.
yeah, congrats.
Oh, thank you.
And I want to apologize for my airheadedness during the show. I was trying so hard to keep up with all the super chats. We did not expect such a great turnout. So thank you guys so much. So many more people showed up than we thought would. And we appreciate your, showing up on a Sunday afternoon and spending it with us. And especially for the super chats, they mean so much to us here at Midnight's Edge. They help keep the lights on, as Andre says. So, and Rob, tell them where they can find us, of course.
Yes, you can find us here. You can find us over at the sister channel, Midnight's Edge After Dark. We do live streams, we do rants, we do reviews, we do all kinds of stuff over there. And you can also, if you really like what we do, you can check us out on Patreon. And the Patreon is actually for us at After Dark and the main channel. So it's sort of rolled into one.
And I also have to chime in and say one final thing. And that's about this humongous video that we just did. The one breaking down the static rights and how Prime is not canon. I believe this is something that everyone needs to know, because many people are still not clear about this, and you kind of have to know the right situation to be able to fully grasp what's going on. So I would urge you all to share the video or otherwise spread the word. Let everyone know Prime is not canon. Do not fall for that deception anymore. And then also have to give a shout out to JPRPH1, who sent $1.99 super chat. I'm a first time listener. Great job. Thank you so much. And thank you to everyone else who have been watching and who keep supporting us and supporting our channel and supporting what we do. We couldn't do it without you. So thank you all. Have a great day.
Yes, everyone, thank you for joining us. Thank you for spending time with us. Have yourselves a great day, and keep on keeping on, as they say.